men's basketball fans getting more and more nervous. I'm sure some people still feeling relaxed, but when you see player after player entering the portal, although we expected it, in the big news yesterday that Darian Devries was getting hired by the Indiana Hoosiers, the perceived big fish in the pond for Beth Getz and this administration, the palms are getting sweatier each day that passes by and each Iowa men's basketball player that enters the transfer portal. Just moments ago, we got news that Iowa freshman forward Cooper Koch, a one-time four-star recruit, would be hitting the portal. Who knows if there's a chance he comes back? I would think there is. But what would it take? And how close are we to a decision on who the next head coach is? Those are still question marks. We'll talk about Cooper Koch's decision to enter the portal in just one moment. But first, a reminder, check out Iowa Floor Covering. They are heading up our transfer portal coverage this week here in mid-March. Be sure you rely on them for your next DIY flooring project, or perhaps you have a bathroom remodel or bathroom build in the works. Give them a call, 515-379-7000. They can help you out with your flooring and tile shower needs. Again, 515-379-7000, or visit iowafloorcovering.com. So this news just breaking moments ago. In fact, I was getting ready to discuss the Josh Dix news, which we'll have to save for another video. Josh Dix entering the portal earlier today, and he's another guy there were rumblings about during the season. Cooper Koch is a unique one because he's a four-star recruit, really talented, long kid with great bloodlines. Of course, his dad, JR, played for Gary Close and Dr. Tom for Iowa back in the 90s, and Cooper had been a four-star recruit. He grew up in the Peoria area, was a top 100 kid nationally, had offers from a bunch of high major schools out of high school, including Illinois, including Purdue, including Wisconsin, also reported interest in an offer from Wake Forest. My guess is he had more, but he committed to Iowa relatively early, and it was Fran McCaffrey and Matt Gatens that were the two big recruiters for this young man who, again, has great bloodlines and family history, bleeds black and gold. But JR was very clear. We'd had JR on the show a number of times. He was very clear that through the recruiting process, this was Cooper's decision. And as much as JR wanted him to go to Iowa because JR is an Iowa alum, he bleeds black and gold, this was Cooper's decision. And Cooper earned all of these high major offers. And he only played 10 games this year, dealt with some soft tissue issues. Eventually, he was shut down for the season due to injury. Actually shot really well from three, close to 43% in those 10 games in which he played. Was just really good overall from the field as it relates to efficiency. I think certainly he's going to have to add weight to meet expectations, but you can say that about any true freshman forward at the Big Ten level. But he's got the length, he's got the skill, he's got the shot, he's got a really nice looking jump shot. And I think he's going to be able to play in an up-tempo system. Now, whether or not that's at Iowa, we don't know who the next head coach is. And I'm sure that's part of what he was waiting on. Of course, guys could have entered the portal as early as last weekend after the Fran McCaffrey firing news initially broke. And I know J.R. Koch has been very adamant, very supportive of Fran McCaffrey since the beginning. So again, I don't know how Cooper and J.R. are feeling about this news, but I know they were supportive of the Fran McCaffrey family. And certainly when something like this breaks, there's going to be some frustrations, and there could be that here as well. But it was interesting that you had a couple of major big names enter the portal one day after the Darian Devries to Indiana news broke. Not saying it's cause and effect there, but with Josh Dix and Cooper Koch both entering today, you wonder if those guys were waiting to hear if Iowa was going to land Devries. Now, it doesn't mean either one of those guys could return to Iowa. I'm guessing there is a better chance that Cooper comes back to Iowa as opposed to Josh Dix. I'm not advocating for Josh Dix to leave. Believe you me, I'm not saying that. But if Iowa's NIL, their collective is so far behind as it relates to men's basketball, as opposed to all these other programs, part of me would encourage someone young to explore his options. I want him to come back too, but I know it's hard to make the NBA. It's hard to play professionally. Now, he'll get a shot overseas regardless of what happens in the G League or in the NBA, depending on where he ends up in another year from now. He was on some mock draft boards late in the second round that I saw late in the regular season that were released. But hey, if you have an opportunity to go make a quick $800,000 or $1 million somewhere, I can't imagine not exploring those options when you can enter the portal freely and do so in advance of the regular window opening because of the firing when it took place. Now people like Josh Dix, Owen Freeman, Brock Harding can all explore those options before the majority of college basketball players can enter the portal. Guys can announce their intentions, but they can't technically enter the portal. Iowa players can because of the 30-day window that follows the firing of a Division I head coach. So I hope Cooper Koch comes back because I think he's every bit as good as his ranking would indicate from his class here in 2024. But hey, he's going to explore options. Iowa's not announced their next head coach. I would think that if it's Ben McCollum, given the fact that he's a pretty big name nationally right now, heading up what's being done at Drake in year one as the head of that program, you have a better chance of retaining some of these guys. So he's priority. Ben McCollum has to be priority. I mean, we've talked about that. We talked about it when the news broke about Fran, that it had to be DeVries and McCollum. I just don't know that I've seen a more clear top two that I can recall. And we've not dealt with a ton of coaching searches, right? We've dealt with the offensive coordinator search for Iowa football, but this is sort of unprecedented territory. But those two guys were the clear 1 and 2 candidates. And I know there's talk about maybe McCollum ending up at West Virginia. There's a connection to the AD down there. Now that DeVries is gone, the Mountaineers will be looking for a head coach. But nonetheless, you got to get this going. I know that Beth Getz is working hard behind the scenes to get this moving, but clock is ticking, and every player that enters the portal makes fans more and more nervous. But this is a significant loss. He was on my short list of guys that I would have prioritized to retain. Josh Dix would have been one, although he only has 1 year left. Cooper Koch, I still think Seydou Traore would be on my short list because of his athleticism, because of the fact that he has 2 years left of eligibility. With his upside, I think it'd be a great building block, foundational piece for the start of whoever leads this program moving forward. And, maybe it's a Price, maybe it's a Johnson Arrigu who, he transferred in from Miami mid-season. I haven't heard anything about him. I can't imagine that I don't think anybody's probably sold on staying at Iowa because there's so much uncertainty right now. And that will only get resolved with the announcement of who the next head coach is. So the longer time that goes by here, the more players that will enter the portal, which means they'll be free to, by rule, get offers, basically by rule, get offers, explore possibilities. Not that those options aren't flooding these kids' DMs, et cetera, as it stands currently, because that's the nature of tampering in the game today. So, but anyways, just my 2 cents. Best wishes to Cooper Koch. Hope he comes back because true freshman got hurt this year, but he could end up being their best player in a couple of years. I mean, he's that good. He's that good, and he's just part of a Hawkeye family. You want to keep those close to home. Folks, I'll be going live with you tomorrow night. I keep teasing this. We've been working through the schedules, Kasheen and myself. Kasheen Alexander, will be talking about the Iowa women's basketball team and their first-round matchup against Murray State, and we'll be looking at the bracket as a whole, specifically the Iowa region. So check us out tomorrow evening, 5 p.m. Central Time. Myself, Kasheen Alexander, Thursday, March 20th, 5 p.m. Central Time, live, taking your calls, taking your comments as we talk about Iowa women's basketball and March Madness right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm.